everyone, welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show where we give you all of the latest news from the world of movies, plus a little bit of insight into what it all means. Joining us, as always, is AMC Movie News Editor-in-Chief, John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the show, coming to you live from right here at the Stream.TV studios here in Hollywood, California, and we are so glad you decided to make us part of your day.
Also here, writer-director John Schnepp.
What's going on, everybody? Happy to be here.
And also here, AMC's Mark Ellis.
I, too, am happy to be here.
After years of speculation, rumors, and misfires, we now have our new Ghostbusters lineup that will star in the reboot, which hits AMC theaters on July 22nd, 2016. Your new Ghostbusters are Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, and Saturday Night Live's Leslie Jones and Kate McKinnon. This Ghostbusters is a total reboot and not a continuation or passing of the torch from previous films. Mark, your thoughts on the cast of Ghostbusters?
Oh, me first? Wow, I love this idea. I'm going to start off on a positive note. You know, you hear that the Ghostbusters, that they want to redo it, and they don't know how they want to do it, then they maybe are going to go with a female cast, and I was slowly being won over by this idea, and then when I actually saw who was cast as the four Ghostbusters, I lost my mind. I think it's a great idea. I think this is the right way to bring back Ghostbusters into the public consciousness. I think the movie's going to do great. I'm particularly excited. Of course, I think Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig, we knew were probably going to be in the mix at some point. The casting of Leslie Jones to me is so genius because I don't watch a lot of Saturday Night Live, but I've known her from the stand-up world forever. And if you've ever seen her do stand-up, you know she's a force of nature on stage. She's one of the funniest people on the planet. To put her in a Ghostbusters film, she could steal this entire movie.
Schnepp?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I was lucky to go to the Comedy Store, and Ellis and Glickman, a bunch of my pals were performing, and so was she, and she blew me away. She was so funny, really nice lady, and I can't believe the cast. I think it's fantastic. For me, to see a Ghostbusters reboot done this way, I'm all over it. So.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
You're not excited about it?
I mean, these, you're right, Wiig and McCarthy, these are names that have been bandied around for a long time because they seem like, I hate using this term because so many people use it, but it does seem like the safe and obvious choice for something like this. But I have been on more and more on board with the Ghostbusters idea ever since I found out they were ditching that. It's a continuation. It's a passing of the torch one. We're going to have some of the old Ghostbusters in there. This is going to be the new generation. It's going to be kind of a sequel slap. I was really glad when I heard they were just going pure reboot. This is a total reimagining. And I kind of got sick and tired of then hearing about people going, well, why do they have to make them all women? Well, no one is asking why do they have to make the first cast all guys. I think there's probably going to be a story reason. These are going to be four friends who decide that they can do something together, and they do it.
They actually released this morning the little bios for their characters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Wiig and Leslie Jones used to be part of a team, like a paranormal team. They wrote a book together, then they had a falling out. Melissa McCarthy plays that kind of a subway, I think she works in the subway department.
Totally sounds like a character they would give her.
Yep.
Finds some paranormal, freakish ghost activity and goes to these two people. They reunite. And what is the other blonde's name?
Kate McKinnon.
Kate McKinnon is playing Leslie Jones' new assistant. And so Leslie Jones is kind of doing this ghost hunters type thing.
Yeah, I got a chance to check out the bios as well, and I woke up beaming thinking about this. This could be the funniest movie of next summer. It's such an exciting, fresh way, and I don't think that it takes away anything from the original Ghostbusters franchise. And I wouldn't hate if Ernie Hudson or Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd made a cameo in here. I think it'd be a fun way to play them back into it, but it's not necessary. This is it's like Aladdin, a whole new world.
It is nice that it's finally done.
I know, right?
We've been talking about this for 10 years.
Oh my God, seems longer.
So I'm just happy because it's done.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
According to Deadline, Disney is in the very early stages of looking at Guardians of the Galaxy star Chris Pratt as the next Indiana Jones. Pratt will star in the upcoming Jurassic World and is set to start shooting a remake of The Magnificent Seven with Denzel Washington. John, would you like the idea of Chris Pratt as Indiana Jones?
I am, obviously, I should have brought in the picture. I'm a huge fan of Chris Pratt, have been for a long time. We were lucky enough to have him a couple times. He was actually in the studio with us not so long ago, and he is one of the sons of AMC, which is great. He rides around with one of our shirts. I love Chris Pratt. That was the year of the Pratt, Jurassic World. Oh, you're just going to do The Magnificent Seven with Denzel Washington and Antoine Fuqua. Wow. But I don't like him for Indiana Jones. I never have, ever since fans first started talking about that back in August. And back then I felt this way. I still feel the same way now. I don't think it's a good move for him, number one. I think right now he is on a trajectory of, in the next 2 years, he could be the biggest movie star in Hollywood. 2 years from now, he could be the biggest movie star in Hollywood. I don't think, and while I love remakes and I'm all for all that kind of stuff, I don't think this is the right move for him right now. But secondly, when we look at roles of his, like whether it's in Guardians of the Galaxy or it's Andy on Parks and Recreation and stuff like that, one of the great strengths of Chris Pratt is the fact that he infuses so much of him. Because if you talk to him and you know him in person, Star-Lord is Chris Pratt, man. And Andy on Parks and Rec, that's Chris Pratt. And that's what makes him so likable, charismatic on screen, all that kind of stuff. But I also believe that it's probably one of the elements that makes me not real thrilled with the idea of him being Indiana Jones. That's not what I see in Indiana Jones at all. Now look, we could see Jurassic World, and that could become a non-issue. Because it looks from the trailers like he is not Chris Pratt playing in Jurassic World. So we may see that and go, oh my gosh, this is a different thing. But for now, I don't think it's a good move for him personally. I think he can do something that would better further his career than doing Indiana Jones. And number two, I don't think it's good for Indiana Jones because I just don't think he's the right fit. So anyway, that's how I feel about it. Mark, what about you?
See, if I had to cast Indiana Jones right now and you had a gun to my head, Chris Pratt would be the guy I would take because I think that he can combine a sense of humor with the action chops that we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy because I don't think that Star-Lord is that far off from Indiana Jones as far as the way that they look at the world and their approach to things. I don't know that. I think that I've come around to the idea that, yes, we are going to get another Indiana Jones franchise, and there is going to be somebody else wearing the Indiana Jones fedora. As much as that pains my inner child, I think that it actually, he's going to become like a James Bond figure where you can have multiple people play him. I'll go to death saying that Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones,
sure,
but I wouldn't mind seeing other people in that role. And so I think for right now, today, I think Chris Pratt is the best guy. That could change 3 years down the road. Chris Pratt is already going to be attached to Guardians and maybe to this new Jurassic Park franchise that's coming up, maybe some other things too. So there could be somebody else that emerges. But if we had to start rolling cameras today, I think Chris Pratt is the best choice.
Shep?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think Chris Pratt doing Star-Lord is almost like a Han Solo. So, I mean, if you looked at Harrison Ford going Han Solo, Indiana Jones, you could see this natural progression. And I think with a film like Zero Dark 30, we saw a different side of Chris Pratt that's a tougher character that's not just being a jokester. I think he's a perfect casting. I think him playing Indiana Jones, I could see him in the next 6 Indiana Jones movies. I'd much rather see Chris Pratt in a brand new Indiana Jones than a 5th Indiana Jones with Harrison Ford.
Star-Lord could go to the planet where the Crystal Skulls came from in Indiana Jones
and blow it up before they made the 4th movie. They'd do
Maybe
like a time
Indiana
travel.
Jones is Peter Quill's father.
Whoa!
What? All right, folks, we reached that part of the show for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Ashley's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down, and those of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Ashley, what do we got?
According to reports, the upcoming Independence Day 2 has offered a leading role to Hunger Games actor Liam Hemsworth, brother of Thor Chris Hemsworth. Jeff Goldblum and Bill Pullman are expected to reprise their roles as David Levinson and President Thomas J. Whitmore as well. Independence Day 2 is scheduled to hit AMC theaters on June 24, 2016. Schnepp, would you buy or sell Liam Hemsworth in a lead role in Independence Day 2?
Yeah, get that money, son. That's all I can say. Do I buy it or sell it? There's not even a terminology for what I think about it. ID forever.
Mark?
I'm not gonna buy it. It's weird. I don't think Liam Hemsworth is terrible. I actually think he's a good actor. I liked him in Expendables 2, and he's fine in the Hunger Games. I don't care about this. And so if I don't care about this, then I'm not going to fork over my hard-earned cash to buy something that I'm like, it just seems very vanilla to me. If I heard that somebody else that was maybe a little bit more dynamic was going to be in ID4, yeah, that's exciting. To me, this still doesn't sound like anything else than a movie that's going to hopefully bring back as many people from the original cast as we can and get that nostalgia. Like, he doesn't add anything new to the story that I see right now, so I can't buy it.
You see, it's funny. I'm going to sell this, and I'll get to why in just a second. I'm all for this movie. I think this could be a lot of fun. 20 years later, the humanity's had a chance to tinker around with all this crashed alien technology now, develop some of their own weapons. Jeff Goldblum back, Pullman back. Love it. Hemsworth is terrible. I'm not going to pull any punches here. He's terrible. He's a terrible actor. He's fine in Hungry Games? No, he's not. He was fine in Expendables 2? No, he is not. Then some genius in Hollywood had this idea. I got an idea. Let's get a movie with Gary Oldman and Harrison Ford, and we'll make the lead Liam Hemsworth over those two. Gold idea. And he's awful. He is wood as wood gets. But look, I'm not saying he can't become a great actor. I think his brother's very, very talented. I think Chris is a very, very good actor. He's not just Thor. I think he's really great. And Liam could become a great actor in the future, I have no doubt. But for right now, he's awful, and I don't want him anywhere near Independence Day.
So you don't want him cast as Indiana Jones?
Also not a good follow-up to Indiana Jones, no.
I mean, yeah, well, I want to see Will Smith. I like the idea of Independence Day, too. I want to see more in that world, but without Will Smith, that thing takes a major hit to me. To this day, I still think Will Smith needs to be a part of that movie.
That's why I say, I reiterate, get that money, son.
All right, what's next?
A feature film adaptation for the popular video game The Last of Us continues to move forward as game director and writer of the film's screenplay, Neil Druckmann, has revealed that the second draft of the script has been completed and that table reads with actors have already commenced. In talking about the differences the movie will have from the game, Druckmann said the following: "It's pretty faithful to the game. There are some big changes, but the tone and what the story is trying to say is pretty faithful to the game. Mark buyers sell The Last of Us movie making big changes from the game."
Well, I'm going to sell. If the question is if we're selling that there's going to be big changes, I think they are going to stay very faithful to the game because The Last of Us is a video game that has such an in-depth storyline and characters that it's pretty much a movie already. You don't need to alter it that much. I think it's a really exciting concept to put on the big screen. The fact that it is a post-apocalyptic world, you have to find a cure to this thing that's turning people into zombies. I love this idea. The only concern I have with this film is that between The Walking Dead and World War Z, there's a lot of post-apocalyptic zombie movies coming out right now. So I hope this is one of the good ones, and this could be one of the forerunners of the video games becoming good movies turn.
Yeah, I still think a lot of that's going to really depend on Warcraft and Assassin's Creed. I buy these comments, though, and here's why. Like I always, sometimes people say, well, the reason the video game movies weren't good is because they didn't stick enough to the video game. Nonsense. The video games weren't designed in the first place to be a 2.5-hour narrative storytelling piece. They're designed for gameplay, which they should be, and that's why they're so fun. So I love the fact that this guy's come out and say, look, we're going to make significant changes, but it's still absolutely, it's going to feel like The Last of Us. It's going to be The Last of Us with significant changes. Why I really love it coming from him is the people who often complain that, oh, the gamer should be involved with it. This is the guy who directed the video game. Is actually writing the script. So this is going to be a really cool experiment, too, to see how when you get the guy who's like one of the architects of the game itself also writing the screenplay, it should be really interesting to see how this turns out, for good or for bad. Anyway, Schnapp.
Yeah, I didn't play the game yet, but most of my video game friends who've played the game have told me, you've got to play this game, and told me why it was so great, because it was like, they said it's like a 9 to 10 hour cinematic experience that you get to play. So obviously you have to change certain things, the dynamics of it, to make it an actual film that you can watch and not be interactive with. So I think that's some of the bigger changes that he's talking about. And, he's probably like, hey, if you played Last of Us, you don't want to just watch the same thing that you just played. So he's going to twist it up a little bit and change it up for that fans who loved Last of Us, and that's a lot of people, and we're just regular people. So.
It should be interesting to point out, too, that right now it looks like they have not confirmed this, but all signs are pointing that Macy Williams, the girl who plays Arya Stark in Game of Thrones, will probably be playing the lead character in this, which would be a really good fit.
Perfect casting
really
choice.
Good fit.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we reached that part of the show for Mailbag. No, there's still one more. I forgot. Buy or sell. What's next?
Quick to take advantage of Mission Impossible 5 abandoning its Christmas release date, Sony Pictures has announced that they will release their new Will Smith film Concussion in AMC theaters on December 25th of this year. The film is based on Dr. Bennett Omalu, the forensic neuropathologist who made the first discovery of football-related brain trauma in a pro player and fought to bring awareness to the public. The film will also star Alec Baldwin, Luke Wilson, Paul Reiser, David Morse, and Albert Brooks. John, buy or sell a Christmas release date for Concussion?
Yeah, I think this is actually a really good release date for this movie. I think this type of a drama in when you consider the other types of films that are opening up around the Christmas time, and now with Mission Impossible moving off of it, I think this is great. Now, I'm a little predisposed to thinking that because I'm also very excited for the movie. As a sports fan, I've been following the stories of concussions and the effects on pro football players for a long time. To see the genesis, if you will, the real research into that, and a story that revolves around that issue, I think is fascinating. And I even think Will Smith is the right guy to play this role. So I'm really all for this. For me, it's a buy. Schnepp?
Yeah, I'm going to tentatively buy it. I mean, is this the same story that Ridley Scott was pursuing to make?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
I mean, I looked it up, but he has nothing to do with this.
Right.
So I'm like, but did he just give up and they still made it? So it's kind of weird. Like, Hollywood always has two of the same things. The other football concussion film that's opening next year. Oh, they beat us to the punch, cancel it, or they have to open up right near each other. Volcano movies, Pompeii,
Columbus
Aliens.
movies.
Yeah, there's always some blue people, So there's, so we might have double concussion films. I just hope that this maybe opens up the NFL's insight into maybe making a safer helmet. Or upgrading their
Well, they're
gear.
doing that. They're doing that every single year. They've invested so many millions of dollars. But then it's about the players. Do the players want to wear those new types of helmets? It's a huge issue.
It's a huge issue. I'm going to buy this movie being released on Christmas, by the way. I'm going to buy it for the movie and for people who want to see it. I don't buy. If I'm Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, I hate that this movie is going to be coming out on Christmas, which is right around the start of the playoffs. When players are tired from a 17-game season, that they want to make an 18-game season now. They want to get even more dollars. So the NFL is very wish-washy on, we want you to play more games, but no, we also care about your safety too. I hope that this film can further the conversation on making the game safer. And I think you're right. I think Will Smith, I think this is a great challenging role for him. And listen to this cast. So you have Albert Brooks, David Morse, Paul Reiser, and Alec Baldwin. Which one of those guys is going to play the evil team doctor that says, no, you're good, go back in the game?
I'll put money it's going to be David Morris. I bet it's going to be David Morris.
Albert Brooks?
He's good. He's
Alec
got
Baldwin.
Really,
Maybe they're a triumvirate of evil doctors.
Like the axis
Just
of
give him
evil.
the shot.
Put on the paper helmet. Put on the paper helmet.
And it should be pointed to that I think this will actually serve as pretty decent counter-programming to what opens a week before that little Star Wars movie.
Right.
So this could be a really good thing for this. All right, folks, now we've reached that part of the show for Mailbag. If you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Now, if you're watching us live right now, we are going to save just a couple of minutes at the end of the show to take some of your live Twitter questions, so you can tweet those into us right now at AMC Movie News. But for now, let's get to the Mailbag. Ashley, what do we got?
Sean Elliott Russell writes, Fantastic Four, what do you think the studio needs to do to reverse the animosity and the lack of faith in the film?
Well, it's funny that since the trailer dropped yesterday, and I've been dealing with this for a long time, I have never understood, let's start off with this, I have never understood the automatic assumption of failure of Fantastic Four because there's nothing to base it on. Now, you can go back and say, 7 years ago, they made awful Fantastic Four movies. There's no debate. I'm not going to disagree with any of that. They were terrible. But what has happened in Fox in the recent years? They've had a turnaround at Fox. They've had a bit of an upheaval. And now the last couple of comic book films they've put out have been stellar. X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past. We've got a director on board who directed pretty much the universally loved Chronicle film. So we got a good director on board. We got the guy who wrote X-Men Days of Future Past, which all of us loved, writing the film. You've got Miles Teller starring in it, who has got a lot of Oscar buzz this year. He didn't get a nomination, nor should he have, but he was right in the thick of the conversation when you talk about the 12 guys maybe who could get nominated for Best Actor this year because of his performance in Whiplash. J.K. Simmons says, my character doesn't exist. I remember hearing Simmons say this. My character doesn't exist if it wasn't for Miles Teller. That tells you something about the performance of Miles Teller. You got Kate Mara, I was going to say Mara Rooney. Kate Mara is in it, who is a dynamic, wonderful actress. You got Michael B. Jordan, who probably should have got nominated for an Academy Award last year for Fruitvale Station. So a studio that's really heading in the right direction, a good director, a good writer, a solid cast, and then a trailer that comes out as good. And I'm sorry, I had somebody actually email me and say, well, John, why did you not like the Interstellar trailer, but you did like this? These are basically the same trailers. And I said, well, let's be specific here. I did not dislike the Interstellar trailer. I disliked the first Interstellar trailer. All the other ones I thought were really great. But the first Interstellar trailer is there a same tone as this Fantastic Four trailer? Yeah, I'll say there's the same tone. But in the first Interstellar trailer, it literally gave us nothing. It showed us nothing but, the reconnaissance driving through a cornfield and shots of pictures on shelves and a shot of space. We don't actually, and you had no idea what that movie was about whatsoever. And I still contend to this day that if at the end of that trailer it didn't say from Christopher Nolan, if it said same trailer but said from Michael Bay, everybody would have universally said how terrible that trailer was. But they didn't because it said Christopher Nolan on it. I believe this trailer gives us insight into the characters. It gives us a sense of the temperature and the tone of the film. We get a little bit of a sense that something major happens to them. We get this understand they're explorers of some kinds. They go into those capsules. They get obviously teleported to some other dimension. It actually gives us quite a bit, and I think it lays it out really well. I am really of the opinion that I think there's a lot of people, not everybody, but I think there's a lot of people out there who just predetermined that they were going to say, that Fantastic Four trailer sucked, no matter how good this trailer was. Because I sit back and I try to be objective, and I look at the trailer, and it's like, this is a good trailer, man. And so what do they need to do to really change this PR thing? Just keep putting out good trailers. Because as much as we hear all these people complaining and whining about the film, sometimes that's us. But as much as we hear all these people complaining, remember, this online fan community represents maybe 1 out of 10. It maybe represents 10% of the people who are actually going to go to the movie theaters and see it. My mom has never heard any of the complaints about Fantastic Four. My cousin has never heard any because he's not living in the online movie sphere. So I think the vast majority of the movie-going public are just going to see these trailers. They're going to accept them for what they are. Fox just needs to keep putting out these good trailers and put out a good movie. And that's what the real challenge is, put out a good movie. This movie could still suck. Just because it's a good trailer doesn't mean anything. But it is a good trailer. Anyway, Mark, what do you think?
I agree with a lot of your points. I think that when you talk about your mom and your cousin who aren't aware of any of the problems that were going on during the making of this movie or the rumored struggles on set, all that they're aware of is that there was a very bad Fantastic Four film that was made.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where the adversity comes from. I think that people who aren't in the film industry, maybe they're aware that the kid from Whiplash, oh yeah, he was really good in that drum movie, and now he's going to be playing a superhero. That's kind of interesting. Oh, that Michael B. Jordan guy, I like him. Oh, the granddaughter, the guy who owns the Giants, is going to be in this too. I think that, but when you hear Fantastic Four, in most film fans' minds, they're not going to be thinking about all these things yet. They're just going to be thinking about, oh yeah, they really never have had success with that on the big screen. And it's not like the Avengers, so it's different. And I don't know if I want to see that yet. However, if you stay the course and you keep making trailers like what we saw yesterday, I think it's going to win people over. Now, this is not a situation like with Age of Ultron. I don't need to see any more footage. I've already bought my ticket. I've already rated my wallet, and I am paying to see Ultron 3 times. With Fantastic Four, you got to show me a little bit more just to get me jacked, just to give me a little more confidence going in there that my dollar is going to pay off when I get to see a great film in August.
Shep?
Yeah, we're guilty of, like, a year ago, we were, like, calling it the Fantastic Four babies, it's like when you hear about a film, from the initial conception of it, like we were dealing with the Fantastic Four and the Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, 2 pretty bad films as far as, like, if you liked that comic book franchise. These were, like, they tried to stay faithful to kind of the jokey family elements, which doesn't really work in the superhero genre so far. Like, I haven't seen anything except for maybe Kick-Ass, which had a bit of a sense of humor, but a dark sense of humor. This version of the Fantastic Four, I've been reading a lot of people's comments online. Certain people are just ready to hate it. They're like, they wear their blue costumes. Like, someone actually wrote that. This is gonna suck. Wear their blue costumes. Because they're all wearing different costumes, the movie sucks.
Right.
So you have to deal with that kind of mentality and sift through it. And then you can find some people who are like, I don't like it because doesn't have that comical edge that the other 2 films had. So you can't satisfy everyone. And actually, the people who are writing in, they're more vocal about things if they don't like it. So it seems that way.
Yeah, that's true. And you're right. I for a long time, when the cast first got announced, I might have coined the phrase the Fantastic Four babies. Because I did not want a younger cast. I wanted a more seasoned cast. But I, at some point, just had to accept, okay, well, this is what they did.
Right.
I still don't have to feel good about that, and I don't, but I accept it. So I got to move on from it and then just judge the trailer on the trailer's basis. Some people don't like the fact that Doom isn't going to be the leader of Latveria. Okay, and that's fine. Just like I don't like the cast being younger, but like me, at some point you just got to put that aside and say, okay, well, let's just judge the movie on its own merits and say, let's look at all the other circumstances and facts surrounding it, and let's see where we go. It will be interesting to see how this movie turns out, because this could shut a lot of people up, or it could bury the Fantastic Four franchise forever. I mean, it really could. All right, what's next?
Dave writes, "Hey AMC, love the show. I was wondering what your thoughts were on The Godfather Part 3. After watching the trilogy recently, I feel that Part 3 is very underrated. I realize it's definitely not as great as the first two movies, but on its own, I think it's a very well done film with only minor flaws. What are your thoughts? Thanks."
Yeah, it's funny. I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday. Somebody said, wow, I mean, where'd they go wrong with The Godfather 3? And my opinion is, actually, I think Godfather 3 is a very good movie that was really wrecked up by Sofia Coppola. And you can't blame Sofia Coppola per se. I mean, she got offered this role. She got it. She's Francis's daughter. I mean, what are you going to do? But her and all the stuff about that character are terrible. You take it out, though. Let's not forget, this film did get, for a reason, it got nominated for Best Picture. So all three Godfather movies were nominated for Best Picture. And I think if you're able to get around the Sofia Coppola stuff, I still think The Godfather 3 is a solid, enjoyable, really well put together movie that shouldn't have been nominated for Best Picture because the Sofia Coppola thing is there. I mean, but overall, I think it's a good film. I've always just enjoyed it, Mark.
I think people just really get upset with the nepotism angle to it.
Sure.
I don't hate Sofia Coppola's performance in the movie though. I've seen it a few times, and I'm like, she's not great, and she doesn't wow me, but it doesn't take away that much from the film for me. And plus, Andy Garcia. Look, there's a lot of good things in The Godfather 3, so yeah. I have no problem with that movie. It's not as great as The Godfather, especially The Godfather Part 2. I don't think it should have been nominated for Best Picture. I think that was just giving it to the franchise. That was like the Meryl Streep Into the Woods situation. But no, I don't hate it.
I would just call it the Step Godfather and just not have it connected to Godfather 1 or 2, because I don't connect it. I don't feel like it's a trilogy. I never feel like I watch 1 and 2 and that's it. It's over. I don't need to ever see any more of the Corleones. So this film exists in some other kind of dimension for me. Like, I've seen it. I didn't hate Sofia Coppola's. I just felt like it was overall it didn't have that connective fiber that the first two films had.
Is it like your Ewoks Battle for Endor to the original trilogy?
It's almost like the holiday special, I'm talking about I'm Godfather 3,
All right, folks, I said we save a couple minutes to take your live Twitter questions. We're going to do that right now. So, Ashley, what have you picked out?
Abe Gonzalez writes, "What's a movie that gives you nostalgia of your childhood?"
First, Transformers for me. I was that kid who, for those of you who remember the original Transformers when they came in the toys, their boxes were, they were a square box with a clear transparent, part of the front was clear transparent so you can see the toy inside obviously. But then on the side it had this illustration of the character. Then on the back it had this power bar of the character. And what I would do is, not only would I buy all the Transformers, I would cut out the big picture of the character, cut out the power bar, and cut out the part where it said its name, and I'd put those up on my wall. So my entire wall, one wall in my bedroom, was all Autobots and Decepticons with their power bar meters and their names. Clearly, as a 13-year-old kid, well, let's face it, till I was in my 20s, I didn't have a lot of girls coming into my bedroom. So yeah, having those on my wall. So yeah, when I first saw Transformers, and when I first saw the Hobbit, the first Lord of the Rings film, both of those films instantly took me back to my childhood and when I was younger. And I just, for those reasons, I love those ones. Anyway, what about you, Mark?
I'd say A Clockwork Orange, Citizen Kane. No, I'm going to go with a film called Flight of the Navigator. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's a really fun movie.
Awesome.
It's got a space element. It's got a little bit of a time travel element. This kid, David Faraday, he goes off and he wakes up and it's 8 years, I believe, later than when he passed out, and what's going on. And there's this alien Max that's voiced by Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman, and it's a really, really fun movie. And I think it might have been the first time I saw a movie in the theater.
And it had a really great spaceship.
Yeah.
It was like both
really cool
practical
ship.
and CG. It was amazing. For me, it's Empire Strikes Back. That just is as a kid, waiting, I had sent away to get that Boba Fett in the mail. I didn't know who Boba Fett was going to be. So for me, like, that anticipation, and when I finally got him, I still have photos that I took, in the sand, playing with all the characters of him flying, like, who is he? And then, he's not a big character in the movie. It doesn't even matter. It's for when you're a little kid, it gives you that imagination. And for me, that going to see that film 13 times, walking through the summer, my parents let me go and walk to the theater, which was like 2 miles away. So it was like, it's a pretty cool, a magical experience for me. So anything that surrounds Empire Strikes Back is like super nostalgic. So I hate all the toy people because they made like a giant Boba Fett that's just like the one I had as a kid. So of course I had to buy it because it's like the size that I was when I was a kid. So I was like,
I remember when Empire Strikes Back for me is another good one because I remember my Italian aunt Pina, she took me to, I believe it was the Tivoli Theater in Hamilton, Ontario, to go see Empire Strikes Back. I was just a young kid to go see it for the first time, and I still remember because when we walked in just a few seconds late, we walked in just as the Star Destroyers flying overhead, and the probe droids start dropping down, going off the different directions. And it's like, so now whenever I see that, it just takes me back to when I was sitting in that theater with my aunt beside me watching that again.
Superman 2 is also another one for me that's like super nostalgic, you know?
All right, what's next?
Brian Miller writes, do you think George Lucas still would have sold Lucasfilm to Disney if he hadn't botched the prequels?
Wow, good question, because George Lucas is, from all accounts, I've met him once, he's, from all accounts, a sweet, nice guy. Total control freak with his property, which is why Star Wars was able to get made, which is why the Indiana Jones films were able to get made. But a really sweet guy. And from everything I understand, people think he doesn't listen to fans. He does listen to fans. He doesn't do what they want. He's not subservient to the fans, but he listens. And I know that the hatred that all of us, including me, shot at George Lucas, I know that was very hurtful for him. I think that was extremely hurtful for him. And that's a great question. If it was not for the prequels, and not so much the fact that he botched them, but our reaction to the botching of the prequels, if it wasn't for that, would he have sold Star Wars? I'm going to guess not. It's actually a great question. And now, then again, I wasn't offered, what was it, $4 billion?
$4 billion, yeah.
Plus probably back end and all future Star Wars properties? Maybe I would have anyway, but it's a great question. Do you guys see it any differently?
I don't think he sells. If he made the prequels and the prequels were as great as the original trilogy, I don't think there's any way that he sells the rights. I don't think that happens. I think
he passes it on to his kids at that point.
Yeah, and I think maybe his kids make a decision if he passes away, and then they're like, oh no, we think that there should be more movies. But I think if he made 6 legendary all-time movies, I don't think he's selling. I think he walks off into the sunset. So it's actually, in a way, it's kind of cool that the prequels weren't great because now we get The Force Awakens in December.
I think if he didn't make those prequels, and maybe even going back a little bit further, like if he didn't insulate himself and become King George. If he allowed, I read up a lot about him, just all of us have. Gary Kurtz, a lot of falling outs with producers who were there to like kind of body check him a little bit on like, you sure you want to do that? Don't you want to keep true to the story that we started telling like 7 years ago? Why are you changing it to sell toys? There's certain things that he kind of went against, and it almost turned into his dad. You know, I mean, there's these weird things. So like him eventually selling it, I mean, it makes sense because of what happened, but if we went back in time and he made the trilogy and it was a different way, if it came out earlier, who knows? These are all things we'll never know, but I'm glad he sold it. So.
All right, folks, that'll do it for us for this installment of AMC Movie Talk. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, listen, if you're into indie film right now, and for the past week, we sent Alicia and Amy Rose all the way out to Utah for the Sundance Film Festival, and they have been giving us great coverage on there. If you want to see their coverage of all the stuff going on and reviewing all these different films, these great indie films playing at Sundance, go over to our other YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/AMC Independent, and you'll see all the great coverage they've got there. Don't forget, lots of great films playing in AMC theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater showtime, and of course your movie ticket information. If you want an audio-only version of this episode, look in the description of this video and you'll find a link to our podcast feed. And don't forget to click the thumbs up button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I want to thank the guys sitting at the table with me. First of all, sitting right here, Mr. Mark Ellis. Mark, where can people find you online?
On Twitter and Instagram at 5150 Ellis, and this weekend I'll be at the Comedy Store right here in Hollywood, California. Maybe Schnepp shows up.
And of course, the aforementioned Mr. John Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you?
Hey, if it's a Friday, is it a Friday, Ellis?
It's a Friday.
I'll probably be at the Comedy Store checking this yuck master up. Tomorrow night, I'll be at AMC 16, probably, I guess, at the 7:30 show. Mordecai, let's party. Let's do it.
And our lovely host today, Miss Ashley Mova. Ashley, where can people find you?
Twitter, Instagram, at Ashley Mova. Happy Wednesday, guys.
And you can find me on the various social media networks, just at John Campea. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. My name's John Campea for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.
Hey everyone, if you liked this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC Movie Talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.